You're back to the verdict, and Mr. Chukuma, you are going to respond to what Mr. Frankenbach has said.
Yeah, first of all, I have to commend the police under the leadership of IGP Adamu for the preparations they have made, which Frank elaborated on. Civil society groups such as Clean Foundation has also supported them with election security management training. However, there are two fundamental areas that they need to pay attention, both in the preparation for the presidential election tomorrow and the subsequent state-level election. One is the security officials that are attached to politicians, and especially public office holders who follow them around during this election period. It is not very clear how the police monitors deployed will actually stop them. And in my experience...
Are they supposed to move around in the first place?
But they will go and vote.
Okay.
And when they vote, they will say they are going back to their, you know, their residences. And I don't know how the police monitors they would deploy would actually stop those people when they do what they do. In my experience of election observation, that has been an area. It has been a flashpoint area. In the past, the Police Service Commission has actually withdrawn them.
On election day or before election?
On election day, some before election day, to prevent such a thing happening. Then the other one is the institutional challenges the Nigerian police force itself faces, which gets compounded on election day because of the ban on free movement of persons and vehicles. Yeah. Now, tomorrow, do the police have adequate transportation that will convey these police personnel to their various polling units where they will be deployed? Experiences in the past have shown that even politicians provide these vehicles, and through that, this transportation, and through that process, things can happen. The average police station in Nigeria is challenged. In my experience, you may not have one or two, more than one or two, at most 3 vehicles at the service, functional vehicles at the police station. And the personnel strength is over 200. So on election day, how will they get to polling units? Then the other one is things as basic as welfare, right? These people are going to stay there from, they will leave their home as early as for the election to start by 8 a.m. and they will be there to the end of the day. So will they be provided with food? Yes, allowances could be paid, but you will not see where to buy anything to eat. Things as basic as this. And then you also have to talk about communication. If they encounter situations that require reinforcement, do they have the walkie-talkies to call for reinforcement? Again, the average police station in Nigeria may not have more than 10 to 20 serviceable walkie-talkies, serving over 200. So it comes down to average of 1 walkie-talkie per 20 personnel. So if they encounter situations that require reinforcement, how will they call for backups? Now, these are things that you don't solve overnight, but it's important to factor it in. So when you are talking about budgeting for elections, it's not just paying the allowances, but this whole thing that sound logistics, but if not addressed, could lead to all manner of outcomes.
We'll get Mr. Mba to respond to this in a moment, but we need to right now go to Benue. Yeah, remember, they have some security concerns themselves. Well, we've got our correspondent there, Pius Ango, to bring us up to speed on what's going on there. Pius.
Thank you, Chamberlain. I am standing here at the Federal Medical Center Junction in Makadi, the Benue State capital, to engage respondents on the Saturday's presidential and National Assembly elections. And I have with me this morning a first-time voter going into this election. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're a first-time voter. What is the reason for you voting this time in this year's election?
Okay, during the last elections, I couldn't meet up with the registrations, and in this year's election, I made sure that I registered on time to have my PVC to be able to vote, because I know my votes are going to count, and therefore I'm ready to vote tomorrow for a leader that will transform Nigeria and bring up the big dreams we have for this country, and then make people want to know make people come to Nigeria to see the good things that are happening, because we have a lot of potentials to explore, and I want the world to know that.
All right, thank you very much. I'd like to also invite another respondent to talk to us about whether or not the postponement of the last Saturday's election will affect this election in terms of voter apathy or encourage people. Thank you, Mr. Wilfred.
Thank you.
What is your opinion with regards the shift in the election? Do you think it's going to affect people, voters turn out tomorrow, or people would rather come out to cast their vote despite the inconveniences of last Saturday?
I think the inconveniences came as, the postponement came as a shock with a lot of inconveniences. But the people's resolve is there. It's like it's on automatic pilot. So the people are ready to vote whom they want for a new phase in their lives. For us in Benue, and for me in particular, the disappointment was quite heavy. But over the last few days, leading to the new date this week, I've seen a lot of reasons why we must all go out. The resolve is there. The apathy, initially, we felt there would be an apathy, but we have seen the resolve around the people, and are going to vote, because the most constant thing in life is about change. And for me and the people around me and those who I've discussed with, we felt that this is an opportunity for us to fulfill our mandate and make that change to become a constant.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'll also talk to another respondent about what will determine voting in Benue State, and I have Dave Ogbole to talk to us about that. What do you think would determine the voting preferences for people in Benue, considering our background of insecurity, job loss, and all of that?
Actually, Nigeria, regrettably at 58, we have not gone to the place where patriotism and national values would drive our engagement and our sentiment as far as electoral issues are concerned. It is basically a question of sentiments and the predominant narratives, within our communities. For Benue State, the narratives that have been at the fore are that of security and then the issue of the economy, basically. So Benue State are going to be voting security. They're also going to be voting the candidates that they perceive inside of them will bring about economic revival and betterment for the lives of Benue people. That's what they are going to be voting, tomorrow and in the subsequent elections.
Thank you. Thank you. Lastly, I will take a respondent who is a youth and what the role of youth should be in electoral processes. Talk to me. You are a youth. What do you want to see your tomorrow look like? And that begins with electing leaders of your choice tomorrow.
The elections tomorrow is a referendum on the collective destiny of Nigeria. And as a young man, I would like to see that we come out en masse to elect a leader that we bequeath to us, the younger generation, a nation that is working, a nation that the systems, the infrastructures, the policies and the people are working in this nation.
Okay, thank you. You've heard it from them. Later on, we'll be joining the INEC to get details of sensitive materials moving from the local government to the wards, and we'll bring details of that. From Makodi, reporting from Channels Television, it's back to you, Chamberlain, in the studio.
Thank you, Pius. Yes, indeed, the public holiday, but they're still having fun, and why not? Well, yes, indeed, they're all looking forward to the big day tomorrow. But, Mr. Chukwuma, I'm just wondering, I mean, all of these issues that you've raised notwithstanding, the fact that we do have a new IGP, they've redeployed CPs across the states, which we've seen them do during every election year. Does that in any way achieve anything? And what does it achieve? Because they tell us that it's meant to achieve certain security is for strategy.
Well, it communicates the right message, and we shouldn't underemphasize the impact of body language from the leadership, what it communicates to the rank and file, which is why I have challenges with the involvement of customs in this election, given the openly partisan behavior of the current Controller General, who was among the first to go to the president and ask him to run. But going back to the police that we talked about, if it were under the previous IG, I would say we should worry. But this one has communicated rightly, and it will go to a large extent. However, we're dealing with a national police force with over 300,000 personnel spread across the 36 states of Nigeria and Abuja, who are also members, who are Nigerians with their own sentiments, you know, their own preferences. So to what extent will the discipline being communicated from the force headquarters cascade into a disciplined behavior on the street tomorrow is something we have to watch out for. But I won't emphasize the importance that the languages, the communication we're getting so far will go far. But there will still be some bad eggs. We saw some pictures on social media where people were using various signs to indicate their preferences. So, but I hope that the monitoring unit that Frank Mba talked about will be up and doing in terms of fishing out these elements.
Yeah, but before Frank comes in, let me bring in Mr. Wanko on this one. Some of the concerns, security concerns that you noticed and raised during the Osun governorship elections, Mr. Wanko, how much of those have been spoken to or addressed in the engagements you've had both with INEC and the police?
Well, with the police, it's still that there are concerns. While in general we are quite pleased with the language and communication that Innocent mentioned of the IGP, and indeed Frank, who is here, who has been very excellent in his work, there is the important issue about moving around police commissioners too close to an election. We're talking of a few days ago, commissioners been moved around, and indeed a whole almost mass movement of police commissioners in the last couple of weeks. And in doing so, I think there needs to be concern about where you are placing specific police officers. If there is an appearance or likelihood of appearance of bias, then I think it's a very important issue. And I know that with the specific case of Kwara State, there was an issue raised when the Commissioner of Police was moved there. I thought the IGP should have addressed that because it was a genuine case of concern over that issue. Not because the officer involved is not a fine police officer, but really just the perception is really key. I think that Frank has also addressed the issue, and when we met with Inspector General of Police, we addressed the issue of making sure that police officers were badged, they have their name tags, they have their numbers on them, and they can be identified. These were issues that the IGP promised. We'll see how that works out on voting day tomorrow. There's also the issue of how to identify fake police officers and the responsiveness of the police. I think that you need to communicate effectively to the citizens how to respond to rogue security officials who go out to disrupt elections. There is no well-trained police officer, no police officer within discipline that would seek to disrupt the electoral process. And where they do so, there should be the opportunity for citizens to escalate reporting of these. In Osun State, and this is Osun 2, not Osun 1. Osun 2, Osun 1, everybody commended the police. We had a very wonderful interaction with the police. Osun 2, you would think you were dealing with a completely different set of people who are not even police, because they were providing escorts for some of the thugs of a particular political party, and indeed assisting, I would say, the misconduct of the police, of the agents of those parties, and that's why Osun 2 was a very discredited election. Secondly, or thirdly, you also have to deal with the relationship between the police, who appear to understand their role with elections, and other security agencies. And here I'm referring, Innocent has already mentioned customs. You also have other agencies like the DSS, like the Army, and all of these other agencies of government. We need to understand the relationship between both all of these agencies. Do these agencies understand the lead role that the police play? Do they understand that they must take a back seat and only come in if the police request them to, or even only come in if they have been factored into the template that INEC has devised for the elections? These are issues we would see play out as we go into elections tomorrow. For INEC, it's also really a question whether they are prepared to respond to all of the issues that will play out. Like I said, this will be an unprecedented election because you're having multiplicities, 73 presidential candidates. And then when you go to the constituencies and the senatorial districts and the constituencies of the House of Representatives, multiple candidates. Has INEC prepared to deal with this? Has INEC prepared to ensure that result sheets are available at polling units, and where they are not, to find some response to it? INEC says in its guidelines that it doesn't matter if the result sheets are not signed by agents of political parties. Has INEC prepared to ask the question where result sheets emanate and appear without the signature of the party agents? What is responsible for it? So there must be some quick responsiveness on the part of INEC to ensure that its officials and particular political parties have not collaborated with each other. And where we're talking of a multiplicity of parties, some of who are not interested in free and fair elections. So all of these, I think, needs to be in place so that we're sure that we do get some of it right with respect to the elections on Saturday. All
right, well, Mr. Mbah, you'll respond to some of the issues raised by both gentlemen in just a moment when we come back, so stay with us.